Hey, Rochelle, welcome to the Z Learning Podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, I want to thank you for having me. So, really, thank you so much.
My pleasure. So, I know that you have expertise in helping individuals position themselves in the market, develop their B2B personal brand, thought leadership, whether it's to get more clients or to put your best foot forward and get your dream job, whatever it is, you help people do it. So, maybe you could tell my listeners who don't know who you are yet a little more about you and maybe give us your elevator pitch.
Well, I'm going to give you a little sliver of what I talk about. I just find that companies in general, they don't struggle. They are flipping out that they cannot talk about their business in a compelling way. To be kind and generous, they are boring, long-winded, literally boring, long-winded, and very often I don't even have a clue what they do. So that's just things. So what I do is I say, when you talk about your business, what problem do you solve? And when I want to hear about that, I always ask, are you storytelling or boring telling? Did you just give me an example of what you do so that I can understand your high level thinking? Or did you just speak in some generic something that I'm going to clump you in with everybody else? And because of that, I'm not going to get your high level skill. And because of that, you're not going to stand out as the clear and only choice for me if I were to need your services. And the last but not least, the real issue is if you're generic and you're speaking like everybody else, you don't elevate yourself in a position. I don't see how high level you are, and you're not going to get the fees that you want. So people, go to a networking event and they wing it. And I just try to tell people, please don't prepare, position yourself. So
Love
how's
it.
that for an introduction?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think we're gonna get more into that. And before we do, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, what would be your elevator pitch, for lack of a better term?
Here's what I want people to think about. Elevator pitches are tailored to the audience that you're talking to. So some people think you only have one, and I believe that you have several depending on your audience. So once again, one of my pitches is, when it comes to businesses, they don't know how to speak about their skills and they become very long-winded. And I always say, are you storytelling or boring telling? And creating dynamic stories is where I do some of my best work. That's one pitch. I have another pitch that says, companies today are really struggling. They struggle with their culture, they struggle with implementation, and boy, do they struggle with innovation. So in order to grow your business, I focus on these three areas for your dynamic business growth. I can keep going. I mean,
Are those three the thing for the listeners who are listening to this, maybe rather than watching, behind you, is that those are those the three things? Decision making, problem
Oh, no,
solving?
that's
No.
different. Now, that was a training that I was doing to somebody.
Oh,
That's something very, very different. Uh,
okay, cool.
that was a training that I was doing specifically with a client. So that's something, it doesn't apply to what we're talking about.
Awesome. And then if somebody is and then what if somebody is like, I'm looking for a new opportunity, maybe a better job, a better where another organization where I can grow more. You also help them with their resume or their
It's not the resume. It's how do you speak about what you do. So I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I had a client, and he had some sort of high level analytics that he was working with, and he was, Wall Street analytics. To this day, I wasn't clear what he did, and I said, tell me what you do, and he said something. And I said, based on what you told me, I would not pay you $35,000 a year. I have no idea what it is. And this is somebody that is looking for a high level position to the tune of 200,000. So what we did is I was able to dissect exactly what he does and give an example of it. So for example, what do you do? So for example, it's leadership. But what does that mean? That's too generic. But when you say leadership, when you can say that you are in charge of a team of 20 diversified individuals from various countries, where you work together and collaborate to bring in a project on time and on budget, and you can bring, $10 million to the organization. When you speak about leadership under that light, well, let me tell you, whoever you're speaking to is going to say, excuse me, you came in on time, on budget, and you know how to deal with a diversified team. I think we really have to understand. We need to have a conversation to go further. If you're just generic, people do not get what you do and how you can benefit them. And if you're looking for a high level salary, let me tell you, that's the most important thing. What do you bring to the company? Not the skill, the benefit of the skill, the money that you're contributing to who they are.
Yeah, I think you said the key word, the B word, benefit, and people providing value. They need to know the value you're bringing to the table. And I think it's, whether you're marketing a business online like I do, where it's like you're talking, some people get lost. A lot of business owners get lost in the features, and they don't
Oh,
know what's their unique benefits and differentiators. And that's where we help them hone in on those things. And it sounds like you do a lot of the same with individuals, helping them find what their benefit is and how to market themselves, make themselves more attractive candidates, or make their talk about their business in a way that makes them sound more attractive. So you said something before too about a lot of people go to networking events, whether they're virtual or in person, and they just wing it.
worst
Obviously
thing
that's not
you
a
do.
good idea. And look, I've been guilty about that as well. You've got to have a plan. If you want to master anything, whether it's networking or anything else, you got to have a plan. So what are some things you would tell someone who's getting out there networking? What kind of plan should they bring with them to the networking event?
Well, several things. Number one, you want to get clear on your messaging. What do you want to be known for? So you don't want to be generic. So again, if you're going to say my name is, Barry the banker, if I meet, five bankers, I'm not going to know one from the other. Alan the accountant, it doesn't matter. So you're really going to get clear on your
I
story.
know an Alan the accountant.
I'm sure we all do. And I'll give you an example of an Allen accountant. I worked with an Allen accountant years ago, and we said, numbers tell a story. Now, what's your story? Is it drama? Is it exciting? And then he said something, but on my watch, it'll never be a tragedy. Working with the numbers of your business to support your business growth is where I do my best work. My name is Alan, the accountant. Now you can understand the problem. And I realize that if you tell a story like that, this guy's going to protect my numbers and my assets, and he's going to work with me for the growth of the company. So you got to get clear on what you want to be known for, what's your message, what's your high level skill that you bring into the table. That's number one. Number two, what are you contributing to the group? Not what are you getting? What are you contributing to the group? So there's several things that going as an individual, you can contribute. So can you bring an idea? You read something in the paper that you know that there's somebody in the group that is doing, just fill in the blank. You read something, bring them the information. And today there's so much, things are changing so quickly, especially with AI. Well, what kind of information can you bring to the group? Can you bring an idea to the group? Did anybody ever think of, and then fill in the blank? What idea can you contribute so that people will say, you know what, this guy's just so generous with his thoughts, with his information. Is there another event that you're going to that you think that there are people in the room that could benefit from the event? Invite somebody to something. So if you invite somebody to something, they're going to say, wow, he's opening up his calendar to me. Wow, this really is somebody that contributes. And then there's other things you can do. And the last thing that I want to suggest to somebody is when you're thinking about people in the room, and if you're thinking about your client, you want to be an inspiration. And I'll give you an example of a client of what somebody did for me many years ago, and I'll never forget this. I had a dog that many years ago overnight went blind. Could you imagine? And I was a mess. So I went into my client's office and he said, Rochelle, you don't look yourself today. And I said, myself? I said, I'm a mess. My dog went blind. He's walking into furniture. I'm freaking out. The next week, I go back to that client and he gave me a little gift. In this gift, a little bag, was a toy for blind dogs. Could you imagine?
Wow.
The toy had a smell and a squeak so that the dog can find the toy.
Wow.
Never forget that. I thought that was it cost him $12. And for $12, he has a lifelong sense of, I'd do anything for this person just from a level of kindness. Where can you express kindness to somebody? What can you do? Is there a book of inspiration? Do you know somebody that's having a rough time and he's having a hard time dealing with change? Get him the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Let him read
Hmm.
it. When you give somebody a book, that's easy breezy, that can shift their perspective. They're going to look at you for with such favoritism, and you just led the path for forever, a lifetime buddy. So that's what we want. We're in networking to build relationships, not a one-time situation. So that's my suggestion around that whole networking umbrella.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think you said it well about giving and not just getting. Because I think when people come to a networking event, let's be honest, people are generally going there for what you might call a selfish purpose. They're trying to get more business, they're trying to make contacts, and that's totally fine. But the people who I think get the most contacts, the most opportunities, the most intros, and the job are generally the people who show up and with a little bit of kindness, like you said, who give something, who leave somebody with something, and aren't just being transactional or just saying me, I need this, I need that. And
Generosity goes a long way.
yeah,
Generosity goes a long way. Absolutely.
exactly. So I think, for people listening, instead of just going to trying to see how many leads can I get out of this thing, why don't you get out there and try to figure how can I help these people? What can I give? And you will build those relationships, and then I promise you things will happen. I've taken me a while. I think it's a learning curve for a lot of people getting into networking to learn that, master that. I think it's a lifelong process too of growth. But getting from the elevator pitch, giving, showing up with value, being memorable. What's the next step? Let's say now we've gone through the everybody introducing themselves, giving them their little round pitch. Now you're put in the breakout room, or you're having a one-on-one with somebody in the group. What's the next step? How should you approach that?
Again, what do you want to give? What do you want to give? So you're marketing. You can say, you know what? I'd love to share my latest tip that made the biggest difference for you. You want to tell a story that shows and highlights what you've done for somebody, not speak about yourself, but in a story. Today I'm really proud to say that when I was marketing somebody, I tried this new whatever. And today in SEO, the thing that worked the best was. So when people, you let people think, well, am I doing that on my site? Well, maybe not. Maybe I should think about it. How can you serve? What information, what story can you tell that somebody can get a clue of not only what you do, but how they can take it on as well. I always give tips all the time. I give tips on what would be the best way to market, what would be the best way to speak about something, what would be the what best way to hire somebody. I can't even tell you. I'm so entrenched in businesses that I'm always sprinkling tips along the way, and people appreciate it because it's not their area of expertise. So when you support somebody and give them in like an idea, but again, I want to know, and I want to know it from a story so that I'll remember it. When we just give, when we drown people with information, they don't connect to it. But when we show them how we applied it, it's very, very different.
Yeah, and I think everything you're saying is connected, like we are, as much as we may posture to be, we are not really totally logical, rational creatures. We're mostly not. Anyone in sales, marketing knows that generally you have to first appeal to someone's emotion, then they'll use logic to sort of justify that. And like you said before, somebody who shows up and says, "Oh, I have this feature, it does this, it does that," that's one thing. But somebody who says, "Hey, want to change your life," like I'm not saying that's the pitch, but something that really resonates with them, and then like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we do that through X service."
Right. Oh,
That gets people listening. And I think you're 100, and the other operative word I think you used was story. In marketing, we often call ourselves storytellers.
oh,
Stories are what sell every time. Stories, since cavewoman days, that is the way human beings really pick up information. Since the campfire or whatever. We really resonate with stories. I could tell you the same information, the same tip, but through a story, and you will remember it much better, or even better. But obviously, you got to be the type who could pull this off. A joke, I think,
here's
also
the other
humor.
one.
Yeah.
Humor's great, but also you can tell somebody what you've done in networking. So, for example, I have a client, I mean, emotions are really big. I have a client that he's barely functioning because his mother, unfortunately, his mother is in a nursing home and it was neglect. And, the mom fell and she broke her hip and she's too old to even have a hip replacement and she's not doing well. She's really in a lot of discomfort. And he wanted to sue the agency or whatever. And he said, nobody can take on this kind of case. And I said, you know what? That's what you think. I said, I know a person that only specializes in nursing homes. And when I gave him the number of somebody that specializes in nursing home neglect, I thought the guy was literally going to cry. He was so appreciative. He didn't know what to do. So, again, when you tell a story of how you network, of how you think of people, not only from business, from people have lives.
Life.
People are
Yeah.
struggling with so many things. And when I gave him the lead for somebody that can help out his mother, are you kidding? That mattered more to him than anything that I can do for his business. So we want to expand our thinking. Not only do we want to support somebody's business, but if you can support them in life, it is equally as important.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's another thing, helping people, I think introductions, because I think a lot of people, myself included, when I started with networking, you meet a bunch of people from various fields, or maybe in your field, and they say they want to meet. First of all, you got to remember, you got to ask people, who do you want to meet? When someone first asked me that, I was like, wow, what a thoughtful question, you know? I don't know why more people don't ask that. So I made it a habit to always ask that. And I think that I hear a lot of times from people in these networking groups, some of which we're both in, you hear from people, I don't get any intros, I don't get, and I always say, the best way I found, it's a little crazy. I'm gonna go on off on a limb here, but I think the best way to get intros is to give them. Um,
Always that way. It's always
so yeah, and you never
always
know, you could
there's
change.
a level of reciprocity. People like to reciprocate when an act of kindness is given to the person. In general, there's a level of reciprocity. They try to do their best to do that, to offer that to somebody else.
Exactly. And
Can
I- I'll
give.
just, I'll illustrate with a very quick example. I was on a networking group recently, and there's a finite amount of time, and I don't know, they arbitrarily, maybe because my name starts with Z, I was like not they didn't get up to me to speak. And there was a long line, I was hitting, but two people shouted me out and sung my praises and said that I did this for them, that for them. So I didn't have to even say anything. I got people can sign on my calendar. I put in the chat because I gave those people intros, and I try to give people intros. And that's another really, I think, important thing with networking is I used to go to a networking event thinking I'm going there to get leads. Wrong, right? It's about building the long-term relationship. I think it's now about building power partners. So if I don't know anyone who's a client for you, I introduce you to somebody who maybe they come in contact with the same type of people you're trying to meet. And if they could be the person or the person who connects you to the person, you got to have a long-term view, I think.
Yeah, we become a resource for our clients and our and the people that we care about. And when you're a resource, you're much higher on the food chain because you're not just thinking about yourself, you're expanding your thinking. And I get to see who you are as a business person. I get to see the way you think. I get to see your level of connections. I get to see the way you operate, what your thought process. So it shows us a lot in an indirect way, and there's a great expression that somebody told me years ago. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. So if somebody's generous at a table of people networking, well, he's probably going to be probably pretty generous in business. So I would like to talk to him. I think that the communication would be better. The way that we would work together would be better. So you show up in a particular way, and the idea is, but number one is we've got to show up, and we've got to show up with our best foot forward, and we've got to show up with energy and enthusiasm so that somebody's going to want to talk to you and contribute to you. And as you said, when you gave something to somebody, they really were praising you. And there's nothing better than having somebody praise you at a table.
Yeah, the third party credibility is other people saying that you're great goes a way longer way than you saying you're great. So okay, we've walked through, of course, the elevator pitch, the hi, I'm Dev, I'm Rochelle, whatever. The this is what I do, meeting people, the mentality we should go to approach networking with, how we should look at networking and relationship building, and we should see it as really relationship building. What is your advice after you've already had the group meeting or event or the one-on-one? Um, what should someone do with the follow-up? Because I think that's where a lot of people fall down.
You've
How do
got
you like stay in touch and keep the relationship going?
you've got to decide where you can contribute the most and where you think somebody can contribute to you. And then you put it on your calendar. I would say if people are important to you, if you really want to build a relationship, you definitely should try to get in touch with them minimum once a quarter so that you're in somebody's sphere of thought. And you can either do it through you can do it through a Zoom call, you can do it through a call, you can just do it through a message. You can do today it's even easier. We're not quite as formal. You can do it through text messaging. I mean, I can't even tell you how many people send me a very funny text and I do the same. So you're just putting the idea is to put yourself in somebody's thought process. But you definitely have to follow up and you want to be strategic with it. Who are the people that you think could do the best for you and who can you do the best for? And some people are in your lane and others aren't, and not everybody's in your lane. And if
Yeah.
somebody's not in your lane, there's no reason, there's no shame to say, you know what, this is not somebody that I can work with, or if it happens, that's fine, but it's not a proactive situation. And there's no shame in that, but follow up is key.
Yeah,
Follow
and I think,
up.
even if you meet a number of people who you could potentially work with, sometimes I think it just comes down to who you vibe with. Sometimes it's like let's say your audience is accountants. You meet a lot of accountants, they're all potentially people you could do business with. But 1 in 10 are ones where you have, I think, sometimes shared interests or humor or something outside of just business or
Oh, yeah, that's
something.
why it's important to go. I mean, now we're not doing it as much because it is Zoom. I used to go out for a lot of power breakfasts,
Mhm.
but it's true. I find that for myself, there's a lot of people that what I call I have an energetic fit. There's something that when I meet somebody, there is an energetic fit, and the chances of that relationship moving forward over an extended period of time is very strong. Somebody where I struggle with, there's no energetic fit. That doesn't even go on the back burner. There's no burner. I
I
mean,
like that. I like that term, energetic fit. That's a new one for me. I'm gonna start using that's
I've done
great.
it for clients. I mean, when I've met some clients and I says, you know what, this is not an energetic fit. I'm not going forward with this. Not an, and I don't even have to say why it's not an energetic fit. I don't even have to validate it. I don't have to give it reason. It's not an energetic fit. And when I've done that, that's one of my ways of vetting people in my circle because your environment will pull you into your arena, and part of your environment are the people in your environment. And you've got to be very careful. I mean, I do who I let into that environment. So I don't let in people that are toxic. I don't let in people that are, downers. You'll never go, people that think that, the gloom and doom that tomorrow we're going to be like bankrupt and the city is going to go down. I don't want to hear it.
They're
I
gonna pull you down. You don't need that
not
drain on you.
interested. I want people that are entrepreneurs who are ready and willing to move their business forward. They're interested in personal growth because you can only grow your business to the degree that you're willing to, grow yourself. So we're all on a personal growth journey as well as a business growth journey. And when I surround myself with that, the chances of doing very well it's just so much better. It's you.
Absolutely. And I think, a lot of people you hear complain that I do all these things. I'm on all these apps, I'm on all these networking events. I'm posting on all the social media and nothing's working. But we have to remember are things like LinkedIn, amazing tool. Certainly makes things easier. CRMs are amazing tools, makes staying in touch and all that stuff easier.
Technology. You've got to have it support you.
Exactly. You gotta use it to support it, but it's just a tool. You still have to give it
Show
your
up.
all. If someone's struggling with that, they should definitely work with you. But like basically it's how you show up. And I think sometimes sometimes even someone on paper might be good, but it just doesn't, like you said, there's no energetic fit. But what I find is really interesting, other times you have a really good energetic fit, as you put it, with somebody. You just have a great conversation. You're not sure exactly where you align business wise. Sometimes, you can't just like leave it at that and then you forget about each other. Sometimes I've found it's like on that second, third, maybe even fourth call where, oh, light bulb goes on. Someone's like, oh, I didn't realize you did that. Or, oh, yeah, I found someone, and there's some kind of synergy. And then you're at that point, it's pretty great because you're collaborating with someone who you're hopefully kind of friendly with. Um,
Takes
but
time. I think one of the things in business that a lot of people have forgotten, and I'm not great at it either, it's called patience and persistence. And you need both. It's both. It's
absolutely.
patient. People do not buy on our timeline, they buy on theirs. So their timeline could be a year from now. We want them to buy Tuesday, but it's not going to happen. So it's patience and persistence. And persistence is being in somebody's aura. How are we going to keep top of mind? And we can do it in a funny way. We don't have to do it in a serious way. I don't think that everything has to be, so business focused only. So again, when we put a little bit of fun and humor and, just into your day to day, it makes the biggest difference. We're
Yep, I,
people.
I I can definitely attest to that. There's people I've met who, some of whom I didn't even try to pitch, and I didn't think they're people necessarily client for me. Took me sometimes 2, 3 years, and they finally think of a good intro for me, or they say, hey, you know what, I need your services actually, and I didn't even ask them. So yeah, it's gotta be, patience and persistence definitely key. Rochelle, where can people find you? Let's say they want to work with you. Maybe they want to up their personal brand, their networking game.
Things I want you to think about 3 times a year, I have a program called Ultimate Power Pitch. Go from unclear to unforgettable. So that is and my best way to is go to my website, which is dynamicbusinessgrowth.com, or send me an email, which is really the best. It's Rochelle at dynamicbusinessgrowth.com, and I'll get back to you. So that's one pitch. And then just, if you need somebody to like zero in on your business to make sure that you're moving it forward, let's just have that conversation. I don't believe that anybody should do it alone. Isolation kills success. So if we collaborate, if we go forward with support, I think anything is possible. With support, we become brave. And that's what we need to be in business, because if it was easy, everyone would do it. And because it's not, we need the support to kind of navigate our way through.
Yeah, oh, you said it really well, and I think especially in these times, we need community more than anything, however we find it. So,
Right.
yes, I will link all of that info in the show notes, so all of you listening or watching this can go find that and connect with Rochelle. I really recommend it. Rochelle, thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
I want to thank you for having me today. Thank you so much.